and the vice president's press secretary tested positive, this virus has inched closer and closer right to the president's front steps for months, Byron.
Rachel, thank you so much. Now, the president downplaying the virus for months. And to get a better understanding about COVID-19 and what the president may face after his positive diagnosis, we're now joined by ABC News chief medical correspondent, Dr. Jennifer Ashton. Doc, the president is 74 years old. He's in a high-risk category for complications from COVID-19. How does that change the dynamic here, and what will his medical team be looking for?
Well, Byron, first of all and foremost, the macro view of this is that while he is the president and arguably the most powerful person in the world, to his medical team, he's a patient. So he'll be monitored for changes in his vital signs. As you mentioned, he has multiple factors that do place him at higher risk. His age, he has a body mass index or BMI that places him in the obese range. And he's a man, which we know based on published data face a 2-time higher mortality risk or risk of death at every age group compared to women. Now, again, these are just statistics. So in medicine, it's really important not to speculate, just to work with the data that we have at the moment and not to look back, but to stay in the present and follow the patient that way.
Dr. Jen, thank you so much. Jarvis, Rebecca, overnight, stock market indicators plummeted after the news of President Trump's positive test. What about this news is reverberating on Wall Street?
Well, Byron, we're in this moment of peak uncertainty as far as the economy and the country goes, and this just adds a new layer. That news triggered the immediate sell-off on Wall Street, and so much of the economy continues to hang in the balance as a result of this pandemic, and you see it reflected in the unemployment rate, 8.4%, the highest since the Great Recession. While a number of people are returning to work, there are still extremely elevated layoffs. Just last week, 837,000 new Americans filed claims for unemployment benefits, and we have a long way to go in climbing out of this deep hole with the future of stimulus plans unclear, an election, a pandemic, and now this.
The impact of this will be widespread. Rebecca, thank you so much. We'll have continuing coverage throughout the night. And
the First Lady, the President's family, and of course the nation itself here as the President is tested positive for the coronavirus, the First Lady as well. The news rolling out overnight. Here's sort of the chronology of events of how we discovered this. First, there was a report in Bloomberg that Hope Hicks, the campaign aide who is very close to the President, travels with him a lot, had tested positive for the virus. She was seen traveling with the President on Air Force One throughout the week, often photographed without a mask, Andrew, as we watch some of those pictures of Hope Hicks traveling with the President. A lot of senior aides and the President in close contact with Hope Hicks during the course of the week. The White House physician then, shortly after about 1 a.m. East Coast time, sending out a letter confirming the President's positive diagnosis as well, saying the President and First Lady are both well at this time, and they plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence. So what we don't know at this hour, Andrew, is whether or not the President is symptomatic or asymptomatic. The physician says he and the First Lady are well, but does not specify whether or not they are experiencing any symptoms. So we'll try to find that out as the morning goes on here in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, overnight, I spoke to a former senior administration official who told me what the plan was in place if the President did test positive. That's the plan that they will now be rolling out here. And according to this former senior administration official, the plan was to have the President remain at the White House under very close medical scrutiny. In fact, the physician's office said last night that they will be consulting with outside medical experts as needed as they monitor the President's situation. But this would be similar to as if the President had the flu. He'd simply ride it out in the White House residence, but with strict staff access limitations. So the staff not necessarily going to be able to come into contact with the President. Not clear at this hour who, if anybody, will be in direct physical contact with the President and the First Lady. We'll find that out as well. But this is a President, Andrew, as has been noted overnight, who has been conducting rallies. He's had a much higher tolerance for risk around the coronavirus than his opponent, Joe Biden, in this campaign. The President's been out throughout the country, throughout the week and the past month, conducting rallies with large crowds, with many people not wearing masks. And in fact, in that debate on Tuesday night with Joe Biden, the President mocked the former Vice President for wearing a mask. Here's what he said.
When I think I need it.
At 1 o'clock Eastern time, we learned this news from President Trump, delivering his own diagnosis on Twitter. He said the words that you shared. He said, the First Lady and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. He added, we will get through this together. The First Lady immediately tweeting her own message saying we are feeling good and that she has postponed all upcoming engagements. As for the president's physician, Dr. Sean Conley, overnight, he reported, as you said, that the president was well. He did not indicate whether President Trump or the First Lady were experiencing symptoms. He said that the two plan to remain home within the White House, here at the residence that's still dark behind us right now, during, in his words, their convalescence. He said, rest assured, I expect the president to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering. Still, this announcement, obviously, as you note, really throws the future of the country's leadership into uncertainty. Late Thursday, the president spoke by phone to Fox News. He was the one who confirmed the news that one of his closest aides, Hope Hicks, had become infected by the virus. He said, among other things, that she was a hard worker, that she often wore masks, but did confirm that news. And he also revealed at that time that he and the First Lady were awaiting their own coronavirus tests. Several hours passed while we waited to finally get those results, and ultimately we had them. So in terms of Hope Hicks' situation, she is regularly in close contact with the president. Again, one of his closest advisors. She was with him multiple